Michael is one of those names people think they already understand. An archangel, a warrior, a defender, the one with the sword standing over the dragon. That image is powerful, but it is also later than most people realize. When Michael first becomes important in the biblical text, he does not arrive at the full biography. He appears inside apocalyptic pressure, where empires are rising, heavenly powers are in conflict, and Daniel is being shown that history is not only moving on earth. There are kings and armies below, but there are also princes and powers above them, and Michael stands within that unseen conflict as the protector of Daniel's people. From there, the figure grows. He becomes the angel who contends with the devil. He becomes the warrior who fights the dragon. He becomes the defender of Israel, the commander of heavenly armies, the guardian figure invoked in battle, death, liturgy, and protection. Michael's story develops around one central function that keeps returning in different forms. He stands when the people of God are threatened. Sometimes that looks like empire. Sometimes it looks like accusation. Sometimes it looks like the dragon. Sometimes it looks like the final war between light and darkness. But across those settings, Michael is not remembered because he rebels, falls, tempts, or corrupts. He is remembered because he stands against the powers that do. That is why his development is different than many other figures in angelic tradition. Later traditions do not need to rescue him from ambiguity or turn him into something opposite of himself. They keep expanding the same core function. When chaos threatens the people of God, Michael appears as the one who stands, fights, protects, and holds the line. Michael's clearest entrance comes in Daniel, and the setting already feels larger than ordinary history. Daniel has been mourning and fasting when a heavenly messenger comes to him. The messenger explains that he was delayed because the prince of the kingdom of Persia opposed him for 21 days. Then Michael enters the scene. So Michael, one of the chief princes, came to help me. The conflict is strange because it is not only political. Persia is not just an empire on a map. Behind it stands a prince, a heavenly or spiritual power resisting the message Daniel is meant to receive. Michael is introduced as one of the chief princes, not as a messenger bringing words, but as the one who helps in the unseen struggle behind nations. The same passage makes his connection to Israel more direct. The messenger tells Daniel, "There is one with me who contends against these princes except Michael, your prince." That phrase gives Michael his first major role. He is not simply an angel among other angels. He is attached to the people Daniel represents. He is their prince, their heavenly defender, the one who stands in conflict when the powers behind empires push against them. Then Daniel intensifies the image. At the time of final trouble, Michael shall arise, the great prince, the protector of your people. The passage is not casual. It describes a time of distress, unlike anything before it, and in that moment, Michael stands in connection with deliverance. The people whose names are written in the book are rescued, and the vision moves into resurrection language. Many who sleep in the dust awake, some to everlasting life, and some to everlasting contempt. Michael is placed right at the edge of crisis, deliverance, judgment, and the end. That is where the Hebrew Bible gives Michael his core identity. He is a prince, he is connected to Israel, he is active in heavenly conflict, he stands at the moment of final trouble. The New Testament keeps that identity but moves it into sharper combat with the devil. In Jude, Michael is called the archangel, and the scene is strange and compressed. He contends with the devil and disputes over the body of Moses, but he does not pronounce a slanderous judgment himself. Instead, he says, "The Lord rebuke you." The passage assumes a story the letter does not fully retell, but the way it uses Michael is clear. Even the archangel, standing against the devil, does not act as though authority belongs to him independently. His power is real, but it is exercised under God. Revelation gives Michael the image that later tradition will return to over and over again. War breaks out in heaven. Michael and his angels fight against the dragon, and the dragon and his angels fight back. The dragon is defeated, thrown down, and identified as the ancient serpent, who is called the devil and Satan, the deceiver of the world. This is the moment where Michael becomes visibly the heavenly warrior against satanic power. He does not speak in the scene. He does not give a speech or explain himself. He fights, and the dragon is cast down. The Quran gives Michael a much briefer canonical role, but it still places him among the named angels who stand within the order of God. In Al-Baqarah, Gabriel and Michael are named together. Whoever is an enemy to Allah and his angels, and his messengers, and Gabriel and Michael, then surely Allah is an enemy to such disbelievers. The passage does not give Michael a battle scene or full angelic office. It names him alongside Gabriel as a figure whose rejection is bound up with hostility to God's messengers and God's command. So in the primary text, Michael is not vague, but he is not fully biographical. Daniel tells of him as the protector prince of Israel in apocalyptic conflict. Jude gives him as the archangel who contends with the devil while submitting judgment to God. Revelation recognizes him as the warrior of heaven against the dragon. The Quran names him with Gabriel among the angels whose rejection places someone against God. That is enough to create the core figure. Michael is not primarily a messenger, not primarily a tempter, and not a fallen being. He is a defender within divine order, especially when that order is under attack. The expanded traditions take Michael's canonical role and give it more space to breathe. In 1 Enoch, Michael appears among the great angelic figures who move around the throne, witness judgment, guide visions, and participate in the punishment of corrupt powers. The Watchers have descended, crossed boundaries, and filled the earth with violence and disorder. The world is not only sinful, it has been damaged by heavenly beings who abandon their place. In that world, Michael belongs to the opposite order. He is one of the holy angels who remain near God, who understand the judgment coming against the rebels, and who stand on the side of restoration rather than corruption. Enochic tradition does not treat Michael as only a battlefield figure. He is also close to revelation. In one vision, Michael takes Enoch by the left hand, lifts him up, and leads him into all the secrets of righteousness. He shows him the ends of heaven, the chamber of the stars, and the luminaries. That role is different from Revelation's war scene, but it belongs to the same larger structure. Michael stands near the places where divine order is revealed. He helps the human seer endure and understand what would otherwise overwhelm him. The same Enochic world also shows Michael as a witness to judgment. When the rebellious angels are being judged, Michael trembles at the severity of what is coming, but he does not take their side. He says he will not plead for them before the Lord of Spirit because they acted as if they were the Lord. That detail gives him a moral role, not just a military one. Michael does not only fight evil after it becomes visible, he recognizes the rebellion underneath it, created beings acting as though they possess divine authority. In another Enochic judgment scene, Michael appears with Gabriel, Raphael, and Phanuel when the hosts of Azazel are cast into punishment. The corrupted powers are not simply defeated by impersonal force. Holy angels take hold of them and deliver them to judgment. Michael is part of that action, one of the figures who helps reverse the damage introduced by the fallen powers. The Book of Giants are related Manichaean material to keep Michael within that broader angelic conflict. The Watchers and their monstrous offspring, the Nephilim, are fought and overcome by archangels, including Raphael, Michael, Gabriel, and Israel, or related figures depending on the tradition. Here, Michael belongs to a wider company of heavenly powers who oppose the monstrous result of angelic transgression. The Dead Sea Scrolls intensify the military and communal side of Michael. In the War Scroll, the world is organized around the final conflict between the Sons of Light and the forces of darkness under Belial. Michael is not a decorative, angelic name. He is tied to the authority that supports God's redeemed people. The text speaks of God sending eternal support by the power of the majestic angel, of the authority of Michael, and of the exalting Michael's authority among the heavenly beings while Israel's dominion is raised among flesh. That is a major expansion of Daniel's image. In Daniel, Michael stands for the people during apocalyptic crisis. In the War Scroll, that protector role becomes part of a full battle system. The community imagines itself as participating in God's war, with priestly signals, ordered ranks, holy banners, and angelic names written into their machinery of combat. One passage even places the names Michael, Gabriel, Sariel, and Raphael on the shields of tower soldiers. The earthly battle line and the heavenly angelic order mirror each other. The army is not just fighting with weapons, it is fighting under a sacred pattern in which Michael's name marks divine support and heavenly authority. So as later Jewish apocalyptic tradition continues, Michael grows in three directions at once. He becomes more clearly a guide into heavenly mysteries. He becomes more clearly a judge-side figure against fallen angels. He becomes more clearly the commander-protector of God's people in the final war. The pieces all fit the same basic shape. Michael stands where boundaries are under pressure, between heaven and earth, between Israel and hostile powers, between righteous and rebellious disorder, and between the human community and the cosmic war behind it. Michael's later development does not branch because his identity is unstable. It branches because his role is useful in more than one kind of system. In Jewish tradition, Michael becomes one of the great protectors of Israel. The logic begins in Daniel, where he is your prince and the great prince who stands for Daniel's people. Later Jewish tradition expands that into the idea of Michael as advocate, defender, and heavenly representative. He is not merely powerful, he is attached to the fate of the people. That means Michael can function in more than one register at once. He can be warrior, intercessor, guardian, and the angelic counterpart to Israel's struggle under foreign powers. Britannica summarizes that broad role by describing Michael as the leader of the heavenly hosts and the warrior helping the children of Israel. Rabbinic and later Jewish material develops that protective role further. Michael can be imagined as Israel's advocate against accusation, especially in traditions where hostile angelic or demonic figures bring charges against the people. The logic is not simply that Michael fights with the sword, he also stands in the heavenly court, defending the covenant people when they are vulnerable to judgment or attack. That gives Michael a double force. He is both battlefield protector and courtroom defender. Christian tradition receives almost all of that protective and martial material, then places Michael more directly against Satan and the devil's armies. Daniel gives the protector prince. Jude gives the archangel contending with the devil. Revelation gives the war in heaven. Those passages become the core of Michael's Christian identity. He is the heavenly warrior who casts down the dragon and defends the people of God against the enemy. The Catholic Encyclopedia describes Michael as one of the principal angels and says his name becomes the war cry of the good angels in the battle against the enemy and his followers. The scales become their own branch. In some Christian visual and devotional traditions, Michael is not only the warrior who defeats Satan, he is also connected with weighing souls, judgment, and the passage of the dead. That does not erase the battle image, it adds another layer. The protector of the people in apocalyptic crisis becomes a figure present at the edge of death and judgment. His role is no longer only cosmic war at the end of history, it is also the anxiety of the individual soul standing before what comes next. Eastern Christian tradition gives Michael a particularly strong presence as commander of bodiless powers, often called the Taxiarch or Archistrategos. In that world, Michael is not simply one saint among others. He is imagined as the commander of angelic ranks, the leader of heavenly armies, and a figure of ordered strength under God. Western Christianity emphasizes many of the same themes, but the visual and devotional emphasis can differ. The armored warrior, the dragon slayer, the defender of the church, the patron invoked against evil. Islam preserves a related but distinct Michael. The Quran names him only once, alongside Gabriel, but later Islamic tradition gives Michael a wider role. Britannica gives Michael as an archangel associated with God's providence and with natural phenomena such as rain, often paired with Jibril. That is different emphasis from Revelation's warrior Michael. In Islamic tradition, Michael can be connected not only with protection but with mercy, sustenance, and the order of creation under God. He belongs beside Jibril, but he does not simply duplicate Jibril's role as bearer of revelation. The Quranic mention is brief, so the larger picture comes from later Islamic angelology rather than from the Quran alone. The distinction matters because it prevents forcing Michael into one Christian-shaped identity across all traditions. Modern religious movements and esoteric systems create further branches. Some Christian restorationist traditions identify Michael with Christ in a heavenly or pre-human role, drawing on the archangel language and Michael's role as commander and protector. That is not the mainstream Christian position, but it shows how strongly Michael's authority can be read. If Michael is the one who stands for God's people, fights the enemy, and appears in end-time crisis, some interpreters push that role all the way into identification with the chief divine agent. Occult and ceremonial magical traditions also use Michael, usually not as a rebel figure, but as an angel of protection, purification, fire, solar force, or the southern quarter depending on the system. This is later reuse, not a straight survival of one ancient Michael cult, but the continuity of function is still visible. Even in esoteric settings, Michael usually remains the one invoked to defend, cut through darkness, establish order, or guard sacred space. That is what makes Michael's reception distinct. He becomes powerful because almost every system that receives him knows what it needs him to do. He stands for the people. He fights the dragon. He resists the accuser. He marks the boundary between the holy order and hostile power. He appears where the world feels spiritually contested. Across Jewish, Christian, Islamic, apocalyptic, devotional, and esoteric traditions, Michael's identity changes less than his range. He is not being reinvented from nothing each time. He is being deployed in new places where protection, combat, judgment, mercy, or divine order needs a face. Michael begins as a name attached to conflict behind the visible world. That is what makes him so different from many other angelic figures. He is not simply sent with a message. He is not remembered because he falls. He becomes important because the texts imagine a world where nations, empires, accusations, temptations, and final judgment all have unseen dimensions, and Michael stands inside that hidden pressure as defender. That is why the image lasts. The sword matters, but it is not the whole point. The dragon matters, but it is not the only adversary. The armor, the scales, the banners, the prayers, the icons, and the legends all come later, but they gather around something already present in the earliest shape of the figure. Michael stands when something is threatened. In Daniel, he stands for the people. In Jude, he contends without claiming judgment as his own. In Revelation, he fights the dragon. In later traditions, he becomes the defender of Israel, the warrior of the church, the angel of providence, the commander of heavenly hosts, and the protector invoked when evil feels close. That is why Michael is not only an angel of battle, he is an angel of order under pressure. And that is why, across traditions, his name keeps returning whenever people imagine the line between protection and chaos. Hey everyone, thanks for watching. If there's another figure you want to examine next, drop it in the comments. And if you're into this kind of material, like, subscribe, and stick around. See you next time.